Devilfall Valley was a land where ancient cultivators had buried both their glory and their sins. Beneath layers of molten rock, blood-soaked restrictions and forgotten corpses, secrets older than recorded history lay in silence, waiting for those arrogant enough to seek them. And now the Blood Curse Gate had been found. If you enjoy my way of explaining and storytelling, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really motivates me to keep creating. Ma Qi Nanlong and Lu Weiying each took a medicinal bottle and carefully stored it away in their storage pouches. Once that was done, the three of them turned their gazes toward the two remaining ancient treasures. For a brief moment, the atmosphere grew subtly awkward. Dividing the last two items was clearly no simple matter. As the Marquis and the old man hesitated, Han Li blinked once, then smiled faintly. "How about this?" he said calmly. "I am not particularly lacking in ancient treasures. If the two of you have sufficient spirit stones, I am willing to let you have them at a fair price. We will gladly accept fellow Taoist Han's generous proposal." Lu Weiying replied without hesitation, his face lighting up with joy. After all, ancient treasures were not items that could be purchased with spirit stones under normal circumstances. Ma Qi Nanlong, who was especially short on ancient treasures, was likewise delighted and readily agreed. The two of them promptly gathered nearly all the spirit stones they possessed and handed them over to Han Li, bringing the matter to a conclusion that satisfied all parties involved. Seeing that the two ancient treasures had been taken, Han Li casually waved his hand. The azure silkworm robe appeared in his grasp, and he calmly put it away. The other two watched this with blank expressions. However, since Han Li had already ceded the two ancient treasures to them, they did not dwell on the matter. Though the robe was rare, it was of limited practical use. With the treasures divided, the three turned their attention to the spirit grass growing along the edge of the lava pool, harvesting several stalks each. This spirit grass was far from ordinary, having grown in such an extreme environment. It was revealed to be flame-attribute golden yang grass, a top-grade material used in refining fire-aspected spirit pills. With nothing else in the area worthy of their attention, the three regrouped atop the stone platform and began discussing their plans moving forward. Han Li was the first to speak, his tone calm and unhurried. "Now that the treasure has been obtained, I plan to leave the depths of the valley and return the way I came. Will the two of you be coming with me?" Marquis Nanlong let out a chuckle. Fellow Taoist Han must be joking. Brother Lu and I only managed to enter this valley after no small amount of hardship. How could we possibly leave so soon? Why are you in such a hurry? Han Li replied evenly. "There is nothing strange about it. I have already profited from this journey and do not wish to take further risks. The path of cultivation stretches long before me. I have no desire to linger in a place this dangerous and risk cutting that path short." Lu Weiying broke into a broad smile. "Haha, I didn't expect fellow Taoist Han to be so clear-minded about his future. It's a pity we won't be returning together. In that case, fellow Taoist Han may leave the valley first." Han Li's expression turned slightly odd. "Leave alone? If I depart with the yin-yang ring, how do the two of you intend to pass through the Great North Essence lights?" Marquis Nanlong answered swiftly. "Brother Han need not worry. We have already considered this. Master Kang Kun once discovered a transportation formation deep within the valley. However, it lies quite far from here. Returning by your original path would be much faster for you. Had it been closer, I would have mentioned it earlier." Han Li froze for a brief moment before nodding in understanding. "So that's how it is. Then I shall bid you farewell. I hope the two of you reap a bountiful harvest." Marquis Nanlong and Lu Weiying quickly returned the courtesy. "Many thanks for your kind words, fellow Taoist Han. Please go ahead." Han Li smiled faintly. Casting one last glance at the crystalline bones, he transformed into a streak of azure light and shot out of the cavern, vanishing in the blink of an eye. Once Han Li had disappeared from sight, Lu Weiying's smile slowly faded. Marquis Nanlong, his face expressionless, slapped his storage pouch and released several small golden birds, the eternal flight orioles he had personally nurtured. They fluttered out of the cave and vanished into the distance as streaks of golden light. Marquis Nanlong closed his eyes as though sensing something. Lu Weiying raised an eyebrow at the sight but remained silent, waiting patiently. After an indeterminate amount of time, Marquis Nanlong's eyelids twitched. He opened his eyes and said Han Li has truly left. At the very least, he is nowhere near us. The Eternal Flight Orioles have scouted an area 5 kilometers around us and found no trace of him. Lu Weiying frowned slightly. Didn't you say his spiritual sense was exceptionally powerful? Couldn't he be concealing himself from your detection? Marquis Nanlong stroked his chin, his expression somewhat peculiar. Relax. If he were truly hiding himself, he wouldn't be able to conceal it from me. As for how I know this, I can't tell you. Though Lu Weiying remained somewhat skeptical of Marquis Nanlong's confidence, after a moment's thought, he formed a spell incantation with his hands. A series of spell seals spread outward, forming a small barrier of light around the two of them. Marquis Nanlong smiled faintly, though a trace of disapproval flickered across his face. Only after the barrier was fully established did Lu Weiying speak again. There is no such thing as being too cautious. We've never been able to see through fellow Taoist Han brother Nanlong. He is truly unfathomable. And didn't you find it strange the way he glanced at that skeleton? Marquis Nanlong shook his head. Brother Lu, you're being overly suspicious. Although that youngster Han possesses remarkable abilities, there's no way he could know the secret behind those bones. It was likely nothing more than idle curiosity. After all, the skeleton was quite unusual. Any cultivator would have taken a second look. After pondering for a moment longer, Lu Weiying spoke thoughtfully, whether or not he saw through it. One thing is certain, he had no intention of staying here with us. Perhaps he believes that with his abilities, he can search for treasures on his own. As long as he doesn't interfere with our plans, all we can do is remain vigilant. Considering how much time has already passed, we should act quickly. Marquis Nanlong sighed softly. According to the records left behind by Master Kang Kun, that ancient cultivator's skeleton is the key to dissolving the Blood Curse Gate. Given the formidable restrictions sealing the gate, it is clearly no trivial matter. In antiquity, the Blood Curse Gate served as a repository for countless wondrous treasures. The transparent bones of that diseased cultivator indicate that the gate was once opened before. Master Kang Kun's failure to obtain those remains has proven to be a great stroke of fortune for us. Lu Weiying continued, even so, the treasures we've acquired so far can't compare to those sealed behind the Blood Curse Gate. Let's move out. The gate isn't far from here, and the sooner we secure the treasures, the better. You're right, Marquis Nanlong said. Let's set off. I'm quite eager to see what lies behind the Blood Curse Gate. If Master Kang Kun hadn't discovered the cultivator's remains near it, we would never have had a chance to open it. Those ancient cultivators who laid down the restrictions couldn't have been far away, yet their deaths remain a mystery. There must be another story buried in the past. I have no interest in ancient grudges, Lu Weiying replied flatly. Let's go, Brother Nanlong. Moments later, the two shot out of the passageway, flying swiftly toward an unknown corridor deep within the massive mountain. At that same moment, Han Li was already 50 kilometers away, traveling along the path back toward the outer valley. Silvermoon's puzzled voice echoed within his mind. Master, are you truly leaving just like this? Those two are clearly hiding something from you. There's something very strange about that skeleton. Han Li replied calmly, Of course I noticed. It most likely has something to do with other treasures. Although I'm tempted, I have something far more important to attend to the spirit kindle fruit. There are also other resources in the valley that are of use to me. We've already fallen too far behind the ghost spirit sect. I can't afford to get dragged into Marquis Nanlong's and Lu Weiying's schemes. So it turns out that there truly is nothing in Devilfall Valley more valuable to Master than the spirit kindle fruit. Silvermoon said, But then, why did Master seize the azure silkworm robe at the end? I don't believe you truly coveted it. Han Li grinned upon hearing this. Haha, I'm sure those two old men had no idea why I took it either. Silvermoon asked, puzzled. Master, what do you mean? Han Li didn't answer immediately. Instead, he extended his hand and slapped his storage pouch. A flash of green light erupted as the silk robe appeared in his grasp. With a sharp, tearing sound, Han Li effortlessly ripped open a corner of the robe. Silvermoon gasped. Hidden within the fabric was a small piece of cloth crudely inscribed with ancient markings. Han Li put the azure robe away and began to examine the cloth closely. As Han Li studied it, Silvermoon caught sight of the markings as well. After only a brief glance, she cried out in shock, This is a map. Most likely a map of Devilfall Valley." Han Li remained silent, his gaze fixed on several large symbols etched into the cloth. Slowly his eyes narrowed. While studying the crude map, Han Li quickly realized that it bore a rough resemblance to Devilfall Valley. However, several specific regions were heavily marked upon it, with detailed annotations describing those sections of the valley as well as the surrounding terrain. Using those markings, Han Li was able to roughly determine his current position relative to the marked areas. Unfortunately, each of those locations lay at a great distance from him, and the dangers hidden along the paths leading there were entirely unknown. Han Li muttered softly to himself for a moment before finally putting the map away and shaking his head. He knew without a doubt that the map concealed important secrets, yet he could not afford any distractions before obtaining the spirit kindle fruit. That matter was of paramount importance. Silvermoon seemed to sense his thoughts and wisely refrained from speaking further. With a flip of his hand, Han Li took out the jade box he had just acquired and placed it into the bamboo tube strapped to his back. Then, in an indifferent tone, he said, "Many of the materials required to refine the seven-flame fan should have gone extinct or vanished long ago. Perhaps Senior can find suitable substitutes that still exist in the current cultivation world, using your knowledge of material equivalents. If I truly manage to refine this treasure, I will hold you in the highest regard." After a brief silence, the monarch of soul divergence let out a cold laugh. "Boy, do you think I'm an idiot? Although I am indeed interested in divine spirit treasures, I'm not about to research their refinement methods without a reason. Don't tell me you think I would do all that simply for a few words of praise." Han Li showed no surprise. Instead, he replied coolly, "Divine spirit treasures are not easily refined. Though I know you possess deep knowledge of material equivalents, I can't be certain you'll succeed. However, if you do, I will spare no effort in fulfilling any request you make. Will that suffice?" Upon hearing this, the monarch of soul divergence fell silent for a moment before letting out a cold snort. Speaking with an arrogant tone, he said, "In the past, I once discovered a few materials related to divine spirit treasures in ancient cultivator ruins, and learned of these world-defying existences. Because such treasures were revered by cultivators of antiquity, I grew curious and paid them special attention. Unfortunately, there was too little information, and I made no real progress. Now that I am neither fully human nor ghost, I have no desire to waste my remaining years on a futile task. Moreover, I will only search for substitute materials. I won't attempt something as difficult as devising an entirely new refinement method. And when I'm done, don't forget that I will have a demand of you." "Fine. I agree," Han Li said, breaking into a bright smile. With the genius who founded the great development arts at his disposal, Han Li had no intention of wasting such an opportunity. Although he already possessed another divine spirit treasure, the Heaven Void Cauldron, he had no idea when he would be able to use it. Besides, divine spirit treasures were heaven-defying existences. The more he had, the better. The monarch of soul divergence fell silent once more, likely already examining the refinement method contained within the jade box. With that matter settled, the light surrounding Han Li's body flared brightly, and he shot forward at an even greater speed. Within the mountain that housed the purple-lined scorpion's nest, Marquis Nanlong and Lu Wei-ying were making their way underground through an unfamiliar tunnel. The darkness was so dense that despite their profound cultivation, they could see no more than 10 meters ahead. Following 3 meters behind Marquis Nanlong, Lu Wei-ying slowly said, "Brother Nanlong, I never imagined there would be a place this cold and damp within a lava region. I'm now even more convinced that the Blood Curse Gate is hidden here." Marquis Nanlong smiled faintly. So Brother Lu had his doubts. "You should know that the Blood Curse Gate wasn't even mentioned in the records left behind by Master Kang Kun. Otherwise, the Ghost Spirit sect would have arrived long ago. This gate was a secret passed down only through his lineage." Lu Weiying narrowed his eyes and smiled. "But if opening the Blood Curse Gate didn't require the power of 2 nascent soul cultivators, you might not have needed to bring me along." With a light chuckle, Marquis Nanlong replied casually, "Brother Lu must be joking. We've been friends for many years. With such immense profit to be gained, it's only natural I'd invite you. Otherwise, why would I have concealed this matter from that youngster Han?" Hearing this, Lu Weiying tactfully let the matter drop. "Then I must thank you for your kindness, Brother Nanlong. When only 2 people were involved in treasure hunting, it was wise to remain somewhat guarded against one another." By subtly revealing that he had his own precautions, Lu Weiying ensured there would be no sudden falling out along the way, especially in such unfamiliar territory. Marquis Nanlong was well aware of Lu Weiying's intentions and sneered inwardly, though his outward expression remained calm. The 2 continued onward in silence until a faint light appeared ahead. Their spirits lifted, and they hastened their steps, soon entering a vast cavern. The cave stretched over 300 meters across. Meter-long stalactites hung from the ceiling, each sparkling with a soft white glow. Yet the most striking feature was the dark green pool at its center, spanning nearly 30 meters. Aside from its eerie emerald hue, it seemed utterly unremarkable. After confirming that no restrictions were present nearby, Lu Weiying couldn't help but ask, "The Blood Curse Gate is really here?" Seeing Lu Weiying's wavering confidence, Marquis Nanlong shot him a glance before revealing a mysterious smile. "There's no doubt about it. However, because this was such an important place, Master Kang Kun concealed the restrictions before leaving." He then shifted his gaze toward the pool. Lu Weiying followed his line of sight, and realization suddenly dawned upon him as he carefully examined the water. At that moment, Marquis Nanlong waved his sleeve and produced a small blue flag. With a soft plop, the flag flew into the pool and vanished without a trace. He immediately formed hand seals and began chanting under his breath. The pool's previously calm surface rippled and slowly began to rotate. The motion intensified, the ripples expanding outward until a massive whirlpool formed at its center, emitting a low, resonant hum. "A water-split flag," Lu Weiying exclaimed in astonishment. "I didn't expect Brother Nanlong to possess such a rare treasure." Marquis Nanlong shook his head. "It's nothing special. Aside from splitting water, it has no other abilities." He then shouted softly and thrust both hands forward, sending 2 spell seals crashing into the whirlpool. The pool expanded by 10 meters, opening a clear passage within. Without another word, Marquis Nanlong flew straight into the water. Lu Weiying hesitated for only a moment before swiftly following him. Shortly afterward, Lu Weiying's expression turned pale. The pool was not merely deep, it was unfathomably so. After descending over a kilometer, there was still no sign of the bottom. Glancing upward, he could barely see a speck of light, and an oppressive sense of pressure weighed heavily upon him. Fortunately, after descending another 300 kilometers, Marquis Nanlong suddenly slowed. They had finally reached the bottom of the pool. Lu Weiying let out a breath of relief and descended gently, withdrawing the light surrounding his body. The bottom of the pool formed a circular chamber over 30 meters wide, appearing even larger than the pool's surface above. The water-split flag stood planted in the center of the stone floor, radiating blue light. Around it rose a towering wall of dark green water, extending all the way to the surface. Surveying the area, Lu Weiying frowned. "The Blood Curse Gate is hidden exceptionally well. No one would ever think to descend so deeply into a pool. Still, it's baffling how Master Kang Kun discovered this place." Marquis Nanlong replied uncertainly. Given his extraordinary spiritual sense, it's likely Master Kang Kun directly probed deep into the pool with his spiritual perception. That's certainly possible, Lu Weiying said as he stroked his chin, though his gaze flickered slightly. Marquis Nanlong pondered briefly before shaking his head, casting the thought aside. Slapping his storage pouch, he summoned a white jade pendant into his hand and released it into the air, where it began revolving around them. Raising his hands, Marquis Nanlong formed incantation seals, launching streaks of multicolored spell seals toward the pendant. The pendant absorbed them effortlessly, soon blazing with dazzling white light. It drifted to a halt before the water barrier and let out shrill cries reminiscent of a phoenix. Marquis Nanlong pointed at the jade pendant. It trembled violently, spraying forth a mist of white light. A bizarre scene unfolded. As the white mist passed through the water barrier, the image distorted as though a painting were being torn apart. When the light dissipated, a 10-meter-tall, arched stone gate materialized in its place, crimson light shimmering across its surface. A massive horned ghost head was carved atop the gate, occupying most of its upper portion. It appeared lifelike and utterly malevolent. "This is the Blood Curse Gate," Lu Weiying murmured, stroking his chin as he stared at it. For reasons unknown, a deep sense of unease welled up within his heart. Marquis Nanlong studied the stone gate with a contemplative expression before letting out a long sigh. "That's right. This is the Blood Curse Gate." Lu Weiying stared at the gate for a moment, then asked with concern. "The blood qi clinging to it carries an extremely strong devilish aura. Could there be any problems?" Marquis Nanlong turned toward him and replied calmly, "The gate was sealed by ancient cultivators using essence blood. Naturally, it differs from ordinary restrictions. What does Brother Lu wish to turn back now?" Lu Weiying shook his head solemnly. "Turn back? Since we've already come this far, how could I do something so foolish? Still, caution is necessary." After pondering briefly, Marquis Nanlong's expression eased. "That's reasonable. The gate does inspire discomfort. How about this? Let's first set down several defensive restrictions outside the gate. If anything unexpected happens, we'll be able to retreat without difficulty." "Good. Let's proceed that way." Lu Weiying nodded without hesitation. Thus, the two took out several formation tools and began arranging them carefully at the bottom of the pool, while Marquis Nanlong and Lu Weiying prepared to deal with the Blood Curse Gate. Another group of cultivators was slowly ascending a massive black stone mountain elsewhere in the valley. At the head of the group walked a stern-faced, middle-aged cultivator with an azure-robed old man beside him. They were Wang Tiansheng and Wei Wuya. Wang Tiangu followed 3 meters behind them, while 4 core formation cultivators of the Ghost Spirit sect trailed closely after. Wang Tiangu glanced at the red mist looming above and muttered, "This cursed land truly lives up to its name. Even in such remote regions, a restriction appears every 50 kilometers. One can't even fly more than 10 meters at a time." Wang Tiansheng replied calmly, "The heavier the restrictions, the more it proves we're headed in the right direction. If we were ancient cultivators, we'd certainly place deterrents in areas others were least welcome to tread. After all, it would take at least a full day to traverse this region on foot." Wang Tiangu wore a helpless expression and chuckled bitterly. "After expending so much effort, I can only hope we haven't come to the wrong place. We've already lost 3 disciples along the way." At that moment, Wei Wuya gazed expressionlessly toward the mountain peak and said, "We've already spent 3 days walking since entering the valley depths. Don't tell me we'll need several more days before arriving." Not daring to neglect Wei Wuya, Wang Tiansheng replied respectfully, "Please be at ease, fellow Taoist Wei. Once we pass this mountain, we'll arrive. When that happens, the Ghost Spirit sect will become the foremost Devil Dao sect in the Heavenly South, and fellow Taoist Wei's breakthrough to the deity transformation stage will only be a matter of time." Wei Wuya fell silent briefly before letting out a derisive snort. "To be honest, I don't place much faith in the legends of the Spirit Ether Garden. They're likely nothing more than rumors fabricated by ancient cultivators. If such a space truly linked our world to the spirit world, it would have been discovered long ago. How could it remain hidden until now? Wang Tiansheng showed no surprise and instead asked curiously, "Then why did Brother Wei accept our invitation so readily if you doubt its existence?" Without hesitation, Wei Wuya replied bluntly, "Fellow Taoist Wang mobilized nearly half of your sect's elite forces. That alone suggests you possess a certain level of confidence regarding Devilfall Valley. Even if the spirit ether garden doesn't exist, you're bound to uncover some hidden ancient cultivator region. Knowing this, I agreed to lend my reputation to suppress the other cultivators in the valley. Naturally, the share of treasures you offer me should be quite generous." Wang Tiansheng burst into laughter. "Brother Wei is truly sharp. However, you've misunderstood one thing. My sect has gone to such lengths precisely because we are certain the spirit ether garden exists. Devilfall Valley itself was created by ancient cultivators solely to protect it. Once we pass this mountain, it will take no more than 6 hours for you to witness it with your own eyes. When the time comes to open the path to the pocket dimension housing it, we will rely heavily on fellow Taoist Wei's strength." At these words, excitement and astonishment flashed across Wei Wuya's face. "If you speak with such certainty, then you must have obtained concrete evidence of the spirit ether garden's existence." "That's correct," Wang Tiansheng said with a mysterious smile. "As for the evidence, fellow Taoist Wei will see it upon arrival." Though Wang Tiansheng was merely an early nascent soul cultivator, his calm confidence stirred an inexplicable sense of unease within Wei Wuya. Wei Wuya nodded, his expression returning to normal, though a cold smile flickered in his heart. No matter how extravagant Wang Tiansheng's claims were, he would remain skeptical until he personally laid eyes on the spirit ether garden. Naturally, he did not voice these thoughts aloud. Instead, he changed the subject. "After your sect's elder Zhong entered the valley, he went off on his own affairs. Now that so much time has passed, could you tell me of his whereabouts? Surely you didn't send a mid-nascent soul elder into Devilfall Valley merely for leisure." Wang Tiansheng replied casually, "Brother Wei must be joking. There's no need to hide this from you. Elder Zhong has been dispatched to retrieve treasures from another hidden region of the valley. Of course, those treasures are far less important than the spirit ether garden." Wei Wuya laughed dryly and refrained from further inquiry. The group continued onward in silence. In a rugged stretch of uneven stone terrain, 7 ghost spirit sect disciples were scattered about, carefully searching the area. Elder Zhong floated at the center, motionless. Though his spiritual sense could easily cover tens of kilometers, he was searching for a very specific mark, something that required painstaking precision rather than brute perception. Suppressing his impatience, he ordered his disciples to sift slowly through the rocks. Elsewhere in the valley, thunder suddenly roared from a ravine bathed in rainbow light. Amid a tempest of lightning and thunder, a group of cultivators emerged. Leading them were a green-robed old man and an elderly Taoist. Though neither bore visible injuries, their robes were in tatters and their faces pale. They were Taoist Heaven Crystal and Dongmen Tu, the Grand Elder of the controlling spirit sect. 5 green-robed cultivators followed behind them, similarly disheveled and exhausted, as though they had endured tremendous hardship. In stark contrast, the 2 fiendish puppets accompanying Taoist Heaven Crystal appeared entirely unscathed. After flying 100 meters away, Dongmen Tu glanced back at the ravine before turning to the 2 puppets. "We've finally broken through the barrier and entered the valley depths. I truly didn't expect fellow Taoist Heaven Crystal's puppets to rival cultivators at the peak of early nascent soul stage. How enviable." Taoist Heaven Crystal replied calmly, "Puppets are still puppets. No matter how strong they are, how could they compare to your subordinates? With their mastery of elemental techniques, they could probably contend even with late nascent soul cultivators." Despite his words, Taoist Heaven Crystal was clearly wary of Dongmen Tu. From the moment they left the ravine, he deliberately kept his distance. The 2 puppets stood behind him, their bodies flickering with multicolored light. Seeing this, Dongmen Tu's expression darkened slightly, before he sighed with a bitter smile. "Is fellow Taoist Heaven Crystal truly so cautious of me?" We've spent the past 2 days working together to break through formations. Surely you bear no hostility toward me? Wouldn't it be safer to join hands and search for treasures together rather than act alone? Brother Dongmen, I harbor no ill will toward you, Taoist Heaven Crystal replied with a chuckle. I simply prefer solitude. Please don't mention joining forces again. Since we've already entered the valley depths, it's best that we part ways. He cupped his hands in salute, but did not immediately leave his gaze, remaining vigilant. Dongmen too frowned briefly before smiling. Since fellow Taoist Heaven Crystal insists, I won't force the matter. Let us part here. I wish you a great harvest. Haha. Then I wish you the same, Taoist Heaven Crystal replied, finally relaxing as he departed with his puppets in tow. Dongmen too watched them disappear into the distance, his face darkening. That old ghost is far too cautious, he muttered. After 2 days, he still hasn't let down his guard. With those 2 puppets exploring the valley depths would have been far safer. Glancing around, he slapped his spirit beast pouch. With a rush of wind, a shimmering silver bat appeared. Dongmen too tossed a jet-black medicinal pill into its mouth. The bat circled once before shooting skyward. Seeing this, Dongmen too quickly called out to the 5 cultivators behind him and led the way. In the blink of an eye, the group vanished from sight. That's all for today's content. See you in the next part. Support me by becoming a member. It will give me more motivation. Thank you so much.